Hey guys, I'm Shauna.
I'm Jordan.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. We're so excited to have you joining us here today. And today we are sharing a little video for all of our couples out there who are planning their wedding. And we're gonna be chatting about how to plan your wedding details for your big day.
Details? Like, as a guy, like, my first question is, what are details and how are they associated with my wedding, right? Well, as a guy, before this, I had no idea what they were, but yes, you guys, you are definitely involved in your details, right? Do you want me to talk about the guys' details first? Or do you
Just kind of define what details are in general. Like, what are details?
So details are like the finer things for your wedding as far as like, what makes your wedding about you. So for guys, like I said, that's like what your attire is. So anything from your shoes, tie, cufflinks, watch, tie clip, man, I can't even.
Any of those little small things like that, your boutonniere, we could actually consider a part of your wedding details. And then just like all the other little overarching, they're like the little pieces of your day. So for example, your invitation suite, your bridal shoes, your veil, any other family heirlooms. And we're actually gonna go through all those different things and really essentially how to plan what you should bring for your day, what you should maybe see what other vendors have for your day, and basically all the above. Just so you guys know, we actually do have a freebie that we made for you guys that you can download to help you planning your details, and that's going to be linked in the description below. So just kind of hang out. We'll go ahead and go through what everything means, and
or
then
you can hold up a follow-up.
And then you can go ahead and use that checklist to help you plan your wedding day. So the first thing that I always like to recommend is to consider the color palette and the vibe of your wedding day. So if your color palette is lots of blushes and maybe neutrals with those, you want to make sure that your details are also following that same palette, because what we always tell our couples is we want your wedding day to be a cohesive story from beginning to end. We want to tell that story so that way it makes sense and it flows beautifully for your album and just for your portraits in general. So you want to always try to carry those colors in through your details. If your wedding in another aspect is like a super classic wedding, you might not want really like blush romantic colors on your details, invitation suite, ring boxes. The shoes that you choose could also differ based on that overall vibe of your wedding. So if you want to have like a really classic black tie wedding, you might not want to go with a lace pair of Bella Bell shoes if you have like a satin dress. You might want that, your shoes to be like maybe a nice patented pair of Louboutins, or, a solid pair of Valentinos, whatever it might be. You want to make sure that you're carrying that same aesthetic of your wedding day into your details, so that way when you have that gallery and your wedding album, it all just carries and goes completely through. And then the same thing for the guys. So, if you're having, again, I'm going to go with that classic black tie wedding. Of course, you're going to want to go.
Shiny black shoes, right?
Yep, nice, what's the word I'm looking for? Patent black shoes, that really beautiful classic tuxedo shoe. You might not want to go with a velour loafer, you might want to skip that if that's not the aesthetic of your day, or of course, if there's a way to fit that in there. We're always big fans of customizing your wedding day in any way that you can. We actually have a video on that we can link down below for you guys as well.
And on top of that, guys, like, I highly recommend, if you're going to do a bow tie, do a tie your own bow tie, because one, it's going to make your detail photos look that much more classic and elegant rather than just just a clip-on one,
because it looks so different in photos.
But make sure you know how to do that before your wedding day arrives,
or you can hire us as your photographers, because we know how to do bow ties. But anyways, and then another thing that I love for guys is doing those custom cufflinks, but I'll get to that in just a minute. So my second tip for you is to actually contact your photographer and see what they might have on hand for you. So for example, in the freebie that you're gonna receive from us, it actually looks different than the freebie that we give to our own couples. The one that we give to our couples is a little more customized, because I take the time to line out and like state what kind of details we have for them for their wedding day. So for example, custom dyed ribbon. That's probably not something you're going to use again in your life, right? But it would look beautiful as a part of your invitation suite photos. Well, guys, we have tons of custom dye ribbon in our styling kit that we use for our couples. So there's a good chance that your photographer might have some styling items that they plan on using for your wedding day.
Or if you're using ribbon on your bouquets too, then just let us know what ribbon that the florals will be using on your bouquets, and then we can use that and implement it in the details too.
For sure. And that's just kind of that whole vendor coordination, which again, I'll talk about in just a little bit. So here's a great example. Mrs. boxes. I'm going to talk about these again in a second, but they're a really, really great way to kind of display your rings on your wedding day. And a lot of photographers actually already have these in their styling kits.
Yes.
We actually have like multiple colors that we have for our couples, and we use these when our couples don't already have their own Mrs. boxes, which that's what I'm going to talk about in a minute, so just kind of bear with me on there. But I just wanted to point out that your photographer might have some things. So before you go crazy buying a bunch of things, maybe reach out to them and see if they maybe even have any recommendations of some things that they think would be great for you to provide for the wedding day versus stock things. So just to reiterate that real quick, like ribbons and like, you know, beautiful custom scissors and spools and some of those like non-custom items we can keep on hand for our clients, but it's the custom items that you're gonna really wanna make sure that you pay special attention to and take the time to plan for them ahead so you're not trying to get them in the week before your wedding, because custom doesn't happen in a week, right? So that's what kind of brings me to my third point, which is consider family heirlooms. So I'm gonna talk about two different kinds of family heirlooms, physical and non-physical family heirlooms. So a physical family heirloom to me is like grandma's jewelry, right? Or we had one groom who wore his grandfather's bow tie. Like those are physical family heirlooms that you can include in your details. We had one bride who she had diamond earrings made out of pieces, like different diamonds that came from both her family side, the groom's family side, her mom, her grandma, his grandma, and then it was finished off with, I believe, a final set of diamonds that her now husband had bought for her for the wedding day. And so it was like this really beautiful drop earring, and just photographing those, like I probably had tears in my eyes because the tradition and the legacy that was in it was just so incredible.
And the best part about that specific type of jewelry was that obviously the bride let us know beforehand, so we knew that we had to get that shot. We knew about that heirloom so that we can incorporate the details.
Yeah. And then there's always the non-physical family heirlooms. So things like family crests and monograms, any of those kind of things that can be incorporated into your invitation suites, or I'll get to it in a second, but those are things that you can actually either take from your family who have already had it, or this brings me into part 4, which is you can actually create your own family heirlooms. So I mentioned earlier the Mrs. box, and this is something that we do have on hand for our couples. However, it is also one of the things that even though we have on hand for our couples, I highly recommend them buying their own, and here's why. It is a family heirloom that you can create to pass down for generations to come. A lot of us, I know us included, for our wedding day, there wasn't like a lot of like heirlooms that were passed down that we could use.
And if there was, one of my 24 cousins already had it, so.
He's not kidding, he has that many cousins. His dad is
So I wasn't counting on my heirlooms.
one of 8?
Yes.
Okay, his dad is one of 8 siblings, so he really has that many cousins. But anyways, we didn't have any to incorporate on our wedding day, but one thing that we did do is we bought a Mrs. box. And the Mrs. box was able to basically allow for us to have something custom on our wedding day. It's in our wedding color, or one of our accent wedding colors that we had, and it has a little monogram of a C for Cooney. And this is something that I'll pass down to our children in the future. I kind of envision it like if we have girls, I'm getting emotional, we don't even have children. But I envision it where, you know, if somebody, one of our girls is about to be proposed to, that we would, you know, tell her future fiance to use this box to propose to her with. And that would be something that could be special and something used on their wedding day for their wedding details.
Not only is it cute, but it's also tiny and it can fit in your pocket better, guys.
Yeah.
Because most ring boxes are
they're huge.
bricks.
They are huge. And you could also just technically keep the one half of the box if you wanted to in there.
The next one that we have for a family heirloom is guys custom cufflinks.
Yeah, so you could create a family heirloom by having custom cufflinks.
So I have 2 examples on this, because a lot of the brides will gift that to the groom as far as, you know, their day of gift, and they're engraved, you know, whether the date, initials, some sort, and those are always awesome. But I think my personal favorite was from a couple who she gave her husband cufflinks that were the symbolic knot symbol, right? Wasn't it correct? Knot?
Yeah, so.
And which symbolized their relationship, because he gave her a knot as a necklace on like one of their dates or something like that.
An anniversary gift or something like that.
So it's like that, and then all the other groomsmen had their own significant cufflinks too. So not only did she inspire the groom with his own cufflinks, but then that inspired him with all his groomsmen too. And it just like it was a nice trait that just went down the road.
Absolutely. So if you don't have those family heirlooms, I love, love, love it when our couples create their own for future generations to continue their legacy on.
And then that would be a perfect example because it wasn't, he could give that to his son down the road too. Because it didn't have his initials on it. So that's definitely an heirloom.
Okay. And then the last step, or last tip, I guess, that we have, the fifth one is to use your florals to help tell a cohesive story. So when you download the checklist that we have linked below for you, it's gonna have a bunch of different items on it. It's gonna have your invitation suite, your bridal shoes, your groom shoes. We always like to tell our couples that it's a suggested checklist, not a required checklist. Don't let it be something that overwhelms you, but instead inspires you on some things that you might want to include in your wedding day. But one of the must-haves is that you have spare florals from your florist for your photographer to be able to style your details with. Now, of course, please check with your photographer before you ask your florist for this, because your photographer might be like, I don't know what to do with those, and that would be like a discussion between you guys. But for us and our couples, it's basically like, hi Cujo, our cat just joined us here, hey baby. So for us, having florals for your details is a really, really major recommendation. And the reason for this is your wedding day is a story, and we wanna be able to help you tell that story in a cohesive way from the beginning of the day through the end. We're telling the experience of the day that you married your best friend, and having those florals is so super helpful in really tying it all together, because it essentially is like one aspect of your day that will remain the same from beginning through end. So for example, you're gonna be carrying your bouquet all day long, right? And your florals will be in that bouquet. And then your groom will have his boutonniere on, and that'll also have those florals in it. Let's see, what else? Your florals will be at your ceremony as like your decor.
Say, literally from the very first picture we take, it will have your florals in it.
Okay, your reception is gonna have florals on the centerpieces. So by having those spare florals there from the very beginning of the day, that allows for us to tie that element together from the very start through the very end. And it just really keeps everything beautiful and cohesive, and really allows for us to tell your story in the cinematic way that it's meant to be told.
Absolutely.
So with that said, we do have that freebie linked down below for you guys on how to plan your wedding day details. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them below, ask us. And we're so excited that you decided to join us here and that we can help you with this. So with that said, feel free to subscribe so that way you can get further notifications from us. And we hope you guys have an amazing day.
Absolutely, take care.
All right, bye guys.